All right, students. So what happens with the simplex method if you are not maximizing? What if you want to minimize? So think about maximize. We usually do a lot of profit. How do I maximize my profit? That takes into consideration any constraint that you have, your cost, your revenue, your all of that will come into play with that maximizing profit. Any constraint you could think of. What about minimizing? So what if you're trying to minimize cost? That's what we typically look at for this one. And you could even see they use C for cost, and the other one they used P for profit. So they kind of set this up for you're probably going to be using minimization for cost. So all of our problems are going to have um, a greater than symbol with minimization. We have one more method. So we only have three methods, max, min, and what if they're max and min, kind of not max or min mixed, but the constraints are greater than and less than. So that's our next section. Today, they're all greater. And this one, we really have to change it from a minimization problem to a maximization problem. And they call it the dual method. Okay, so maybe I'll write that up here. I thought that was in your transpose. No, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, no, it does. Here it is. I was like, it should tell you this is the dual method. Just in case you're like, there are different methods for solving these. I am going to teach the dual method. All right, so the dual method says you take, just like before, you're going to make those equations, right, into a matrix. But before we can like set up that big tableau, um, and do our method, we actually have to write down exactly what we see and transpose our problem. We're switching from a min to a max. So look what we did here. We're going to take all those numbers, right, straight. I'm not adding my slack variables yet. I'm not moving cost around yet to make it negative. We're just going to put it straight into a matrix. So straight into a matrix. Then we're going to transpose our matrix. And it didn't leave a very big spot for our transpose, but it kind of looks like this with a T for transpose. And you'll have some homework problems where you just transpose them just for practice. Basically, a row now becomes a column. So the top row goes 2, 5, 50. Now it's going to go 2, 5, 50 down. And then the next one went 1, 3, 27. So 1, 3, 27. And then 16, 45, 1. So what we're doing when we transpose or switch it to a dual problem, whatever we want to think of, really we're turning it into maximize, switching it around. Crazy enough. Now what we can do, oh, and it even gave it to us right there. Maybe that's why they didn't give it a big spot. So now they label these with Y's because they're no longer the X answers. Those are not our answers now. Our answers are a little bit different. They're going to be in our bottom row. So we're transposing, but our answers will look a little different from the matrix. Okay, now what do we do? So our next step will to be write the equations that we see from this new problem here. Okay, so our new equations will look like, I gotta be able to kind of see that. There we go. Our new equations will now look like 2y1 plus y2 equals, or now instead of greater, it's now going to be less than or equal to 16 because we have now transposed it to a maximize. Okay, and then from here, it's going to be a 5y1 plus 3y2 is less than or equal to 45. Now this will become like our profit. So it's like 50y1 plus 27y2 equals, we'll just say P. So we'll use C on our min and P on our for profit. Okay, we've now set up our first problem. Now we solve this. Now this one automatically goes into a different problem. Min, max. Yeah, that's a different problem, 50, 27. Oh, no, it's just showing it. That confused me. Duh. Okay, so here is the problem we just wrote out right here, right? 50, they just wrote the P part on the top. I was like, I swear we kept doing the same problem. That's what I get for not looking real carefully. I was like, what is that? All right. So then we have our, it's kind of writing out like, here's what you have now. That min is now written as that max. And oh, this came through weird on my, it comes through better on your PDF, just how it came through in Notability. It just is writing out in words what that process was that we just did. All right, here's another one. And this one is different, right? Yeah, 4, 2, 1. Yeah. This one, we are going to do the whole thing. So that first one, we're just set up. This time, we're going to do the whole thing. So, and solve all the way down. So what do we start with? We start with writing out a matrix. So I'm going to call this A, and we're going to write out what we see, starting with your, what its constraints, what you're subject to. So that's going to go 2, 1, 5, 20. 2, 1, 5, 20. Then it's going to go 4, 1, 1, 30. And then the cost one, line it up, would be 40 for X1, 12 for X2, 40 for X3, and the C will be a 1, like 1C. Okay, then we're going to transpose that. That's a T. Transpose. That's usually a capital T. And so that first row is now going to go down. I think I left enough room. So 2, 1, 5, 20, right? 2, 1, 5. And then 4, 1, 1, 30. And then 40, 12, 41. There we go. There's our new problem. And now I don't get too lazy and not write out the next one, because forming these Y1s and Y2s, because I find like when I'm in a hurry and I skip writing out a step is when I do it wrong. Okay, so I did this one problem last night for a little while. It was a word problem because I made a mistake twice, just like a little add, subtract, because I was trying to do too many steps at once. Okay, so then this will give us 2y1. I put the one in the wrong spot. 1 plus 4y2 is greater than or equal to 40. And then y1 plus y2 is greater than or equal to 12. 5y1 plus y2 is greater than or equal to 40. I should have been doing less than. I apologize. So what happens when I'm, let's switch those to less than. We started with greater than. We want those to be less than. All right, and then 5, 1, 40. Now the last one, remember, is like your profit. So it's like, I mean, we could write it over here. 20y1 plus 30y2 equals profit now instead of cost. Okay, now let's set it up with those slack variables, right? So the top one's going to become 2y1 plus 4y2 plus slack 1, and now that one equals 40. Okay, slack on the second one will go y1 plus y2 plus slack 2 equals 12. And then 5y1 plus y2 slack 3 equals 40. Okay, last one, move everything over with the P, right? So it becomes negative 20y1 minus 30y2 plus profit equals nothing right now. So there is your slack variables. Should be getting fairly good at those still. Again, I'm writing it out. I still make mistakes. It's human. Okay, now let's write this out kind of in our big tableau. Depends. Like reminds me of like gold to blue, like to blooms. All right, I'm a pirate. Okay, so top one goes 2, 4, 1. Let's label these two. Y1, Y2, S1, S2, S, well, I'll need S3 to be quite over that far. S3, P, and then, okay, so 2, 4, 1, and then 0, 0, 0, 40. Okay, your next row went 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 12. Next row goes 5, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 40. Bottom row goes negative 20, negative 30, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. Okay, now these rows over here actually represent our X values, crazy enough, and our cost instead of profit. So that's why our answer is going to look a little different. Process isn't different from here, though. Now that we set it up, right, we're thinking, okay, they like to use a dotted line for the dual problem because you want to remember it differently. Like your answer is not going to be on the right, it's going to be on the bottom. So let me add a page real fast because I definitely need a little more space for this one. Where did it go? Did it add it? It added it after it. So then from here, which one has the biggest negative? That's going to be the 30. 40 divided by 1 is 40. 12 divided by 1 is 12. And 40 divided by 4 is 10. So this number here, this 4, is going to be our pivot. Okay, so I'm going to divide that top row by 4, and darn it, now I have fractions, but that's okay. 2 divided by 4 is 1/2. You're welcome to write them. I like to keep them as fractions in case they're like a third, right? So use the fraction key on your calculator instead of the decimals. You could do it in decimals as long as they don't repeat. So 4 becomes the 1. That's still our pivot. 1 becomes 1/4. 0 divided by anything is 0, and then a 0, then a 0. 4 divided by 4 is 10. Only a couple fractions. The others stay the same. So 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 12. 5, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 40. Okay, negative 20, negative 30, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. All right, these lines here. There we go. Okay, so now that one is going to be for our rows. We're going to do negative row 1, right? Plus row 2, replace that on row 2. You're going to do negative row 1 plus row 3, forgot the R, replace on row 3. And the bottom row will be 30 times row 1 plus row 4, replace on row 4. So I have 3 rows I have to change. Let's start with the first one here. So negative row 1, make those negative in your brain, right? I could do that with a different color. It's going to show kind of cool on here. So this will become negative, 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 negative. And then we're going to add that to the one below it, right? And replace it on the one here. So negative 1/2 plus 1 is positive 1/2. 1 minus 1 is 0. Negative 1/4 is negative 1/4 plus 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. 0 plus 0, 0 plus 0. Negative 10, and that makes 12. I didn't. I'm done today. Maybe I shouldn't be teaching today. I keep saying things wrong. Negative 10 plus 12 is 2. Okay. So that's our next row. And then the next row is the same idea, keeping those negatives, adding to row 3. Negative 1/2 and 5 is 4.5. 4.5 written as a fraction is 9/2. Okay, so 9/2, this will be 0, 0. Oh, sorry, that's not 0. That's where the mistakes happen. Negative 1/4 plus 0 is negative 1/4. and then 1 and 0 and 0. That one's the one I looked at last time is 0. Okay, this one's 1. Because we're doing, I keep looking at this one and this one, but it's really this one and this one. Okay, and then that's a 0, negative 10 and 40 make 30. Perfect. Now last row's got that 30 times the top. So maybe I'll do that in red. So we no longer need the little negatives, right? So take those off. And oops, it did the big one. That's okay. I didn't write signs. All right. This would be 30 times row 1. So this one becomes 15, 30, 34s. I don't think, yeah, you can reduce that to 34s can reduce to 7.5, but 15 halves. And then 0 times 30. So 0, 0, 0. 30 times 10 is 300. Okay, add those all to the bottom. This one is a negative 5. This one's going to be a 0 because it's 30 and that's 0. 15 halves stays 15 halves. 0 and 0, 0 and 0, 1 and 0, 300 and 0 is 300. Top row stays the same. Okay, line, dot. Okay, we still have one more negative indicator. And I'm going to pull out my calculator for this. 30 divided by 9 halves. So 30 divided by 9 halves is 6.6666. Repeating, so 6.7-ish on that one. 2 divided by 1 half is 4. 10 divided by 1 half is 20. So it looks like this one is going to be our lowest, and that'll be our new pivot. And this time, instead of dividing, we're going to times by 2 to make that a 1. So we're going to take row 2 and times it by 2. Okay. And I'm going to write that out. So that becomes the top one stays the same. 1, 2, 3, 10. And this becomes 1, which is 2 times 0 is 2 times 4 is 1/2. 2 times 4 is not 1/2. That's what I said, but I was really doing the 2/4 is 1/2. Okay, and then 2, 0, 0, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, then this row, 9 halves, 0, negative 1/4, 0, 1, 0, 30, and then negative 5, 0, 15 halves, 0, 0, 1, 300. Okay, and then we're here. There's our pivot. So we have our 3 that we have to do, and I think this is our last one, then we'll have our answer. I have another page because writing with the Apple Pen makes you go through a lot of pages on this notability. All right, so we're going to take negative 1/2 times row 2 and add that to row 1, replace that on row 1. Then we're going to take negative 9 halves times row 2, add that to row 3, replace that on row 3. Last one is positive 5 times row 2 plus row 4, replace that on row 4. That's how we'll get our 3 new rows. I think I can fit it right here, so do it. So negative 1/2 times 1, that plus this one's a 0, times 0 plus 1 is a 1. Negative 1/2 times negative 1/2 is positive 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4, which is 1/2. Okay, 2 times negative 1/2 is negative 1 plus 0 is negative 1. 0, 0, because it's 0 times something plus 0. Now 4, yeah, it was 4, right? 4 times negative 1/2 is negative 2, and 10 make 8. Okay, then the third row, I just like to write the rows I'm changing first because I don't want to look at row 2 until I've changed all the other ones. But 9/2, negative 9/2 times that middle row, plus 9/2 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. Okay, then I'm going to use my calculator because I'm just not that good. Negative 0.5 times negative 9/2. 3, yeah. So 9/2 times negative 1/2, make sure I'm getting it right, minus the 1/4. I got 2. Oh, that's pretty. 0, 0, 2. Okay, and then the next one is 2. So 2 times negative 9 plus 0 is negative 9. 0 times the fraction is 0 plus 1. 0 and 0 make 0. And then 4 times 9, oops, 4 times negative 9/2 is negative 18 plus 30 is 12. Okay, bottom row is a 5 times that row, so this becomes 0, 0, 5/2 and 15/2. I think that's pretty. 5/2 is 5 times 1/2. Oh, I think that's negative. So negative 1/2 times positive 5 plus 15/2. It comes out pretty. It's just 5. I did it right in my head the first time, then I thought I missed the negative. Okay, and then 2 times 5 is 10 plus 0, so it's just a 10. And then this is a 0, this is the 1, and I'm going to have to squeeze in the 300. So 4 times 5 is 20, so this is 320. Boop, squeeze that in there. Now we can write this one in. And we don't have any more negative indicators. Yay! And that's, most of yours are 2 pivots like that. Not, I think we only, yeah, we did 2 pivots, but that one had 3 rows of changing. So our answer is going to be a little bit different. So our answer is in this bottom cost row. Okay, so instead of, this was our Y1, Y2, right? Those really don't have a lot of meaning to us. Okay, they're the difference between a min and a max. So our cost is going to be 320, and our X1 will be the slack. So this will be X1, X2, X3. And it's this one, and this one. So the X2 is going to be the 10, and the X3 will be the 0. So our answer is in a different spot because it's a dual problem. Okay, so that's a little bit tricky. The slack is your X values. Your slack is your X values. But the slack comes up differently. So that'll be the trickiest part on this. Okay, so the packet does have like 4 more problems. I'm going to stop here. 2 problems is plenty. You need to try some. And then there are a couple more examples from the company as well that I'm going to post for you. I might make a part 2 with one another video. If, there's lots of questions or anything like that, I always have extra videos I make. But there you go. That's it. R transpose and then do the max problem with the answer being weird.